Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This model here is the model of the brainstem. So brainstem actually has three parts: the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla. Midbrain here is not visible too much, but on the posterior side, these four cariculi, these are the part of the midbrain. So we would study the brainstem in two views. This one is the posterior view, and this one is the anterior view. How we would know that which one is the anterior view? So from the pons, these are the transverse pontine fibers, and they indicate that this is the anterior view of the. Okay, and this is the pituitary gland. These two indicate that this is the anterior surface, and these four caliculi, they indicate that this one is the posterior surface. Then another visible feature on the posterior aspect is the fourth ventricle, the floor of the fourth ventricle. This indicates that this one is the posterior surface. So first coming into the anterior surface, these are the thalami. These are the thalami which are part of the diencephalon, the forebrain, and from the below the diencephalon we have the midbrain and everything. So this is the pituitary gland, and pituitary gland is connected with the hypothalamus, and the structures from hypothalamus to the pituitary gland are tuber cinereum, then medial eminence, then the infundibulum, and then the pituitary gland. In this sequence they are attached with the hypothalamus. Then these two tubercles, these are called as the mammillary bodies. These are the mammillary bodies. And then here this is the posterior perforated substance for the posterior cerebral artery which supplies here. Then these are the cerebral peduncles. Cerebral peduncles actually attach the cerebrum with the brainstem. Okay, now here is the pons. So the pons is the second part of the brainstem. Actually here is the midbrain too, but there are no such visible structures on the anterior surface. This sulcus, this is known as the basilar groove or the basilar sulcus for the basilar artery. Then these are the middle cerebellar peduncle which attach the cerebellum with the pons. And this junction, this is known as the pontomedullary junction, and the sulcus is known as pontomedullary sulcus. Then this is the anterior median fissure. As in the spinal cord, the medulla oblongata has the same structure which is known as the anterior median fissure. Then this is known as the pre-olivary sulcus, because these are the olives and these are the pyramids. So before the olive, this one is the pre-olivary sulcus, and after the olive, this one is the post-olivary sulcus. Okay, so then we will have the nerves, but we would do that in the end. Now this one. Okay, so this structure, this is known as the pineal gland, and pineal gland is actually a part of the epithalamus. Then these four structures, they are as a whole called the corpora quadrigemini. The upper one are called superior caliculi, and the inferior one two are called the inferior caliculi. Superior caliculi are involved with the visual reflexes, and inferior caliculi are involved with the auditory reflexes. So here the superior caliculi actually attaches with the optic tract through the lateral geniculate body, through the lateral brachium. This is the optic tract. This yellow one. This is connected with the lateral geniculate body through the lateral superior brachium, and then it is connected with the superior caliculi. And the medial geniculate body is connected with the inferior caliculi through the inferior brachium. So this is the structure. Then we have these are the superior cerebellar peduncle. Superior cerebellar peduncle actually attaches the midbrain to the cerebellum, and then here are inferior cerebellar peduncle which attaches the cerebellum with the medulla and some part of the spinal cord. So this one was the pineal gland. Okay, this is actually the septum pellucidum of the third ventricle. These on the side, lateral ventricle. On the sides we have the lateral ventricles, and this is actually the septum pellucidum. These structures, these are known as the habenular triangle. Here behind these or deep inside them we have the habenular nuclei, which is actually involved with the limbic system. Okay, then we have this is the floor of the fourth ventricle, this one. So this upper structure, this is known as the superior medullary velum, and this inferior triangular structure, this is known as the inferior medullary velum. This tip like structure is known as the obex of the inferior medullary vellum. These striated fibers, these are known as the stria medullaris, this one, and these are actually the fibers from the pontine, from the pontocerebellar fibers these are. And then this one, this is known as the posterior median sulcus. The anterior median fissure was on the anterior side, and this one is known as the posterior median sulcus. Lateral to the posterior median sulcus we have these are known as the facial caliculi. These are the facial caliculi, and above them here we have, this is the medial eminence. Lateral to the medial eminence and the facial caliculi, these lines are known as the sulcus limitans, which are embryological structures. Then on the sides, this is known as this area is known as the vestibular area, and these are two triangles. This is known as the hypoglossal triangle, and this one is known as the vagal triangle. Behind hypoglossal triangle we have the hypoglossal nuclei, and behind the vagal triangle we have the nuclei for the vagus nerve. Then this too is the posterior median sulcus. This one is known as the these are known as the gracile tubercles, and these are known as the cuneate tubercle, because these indicates the tuberosities for the gracile nucleus and the cuneate nucleus, which is present deep to these structures. And this as a whole indicates the dorsal column medial lemniscus system, which will extend above these nuclei. Below these nuclei we have the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, but above these nuclei we have the dorsal column medial lemniscus system, which runs deep in this structure. Okay, now coming to the nerves. So just the first cranial nerve don't arise from the brainstem. The remaining all cranial nerves can be visualized in the model of a brainstem. This is known as the optic chiasm. The point where the two optic nerves join, this is known as the optic chiasm. Then anterior to this one will be the left optic nerve, and this will be the right optic nerve, and these are called as the optic tract, which are connected with the superior caliculi. Then this here, which is not colored, but this nerve which arises from the posterior perforated substance, is actually the third cranial nerve, which is known as the oculomotor nerve. Then the fourth cranial nerve, which is known as the trochlear cranial nerve, it arises actually from the posterior side and moves anteriorly below the inferior caliculi. Then this is the fifth cranial nerve, which is known as the trigeminal nerve. It has two roots, a bigger or lateral sensory root, and a medial smaller one, which is known as the motor root. Then in the pontomedullary sulcus we have three nerves, the sixth one, seventh and eighth. The sixth one is known as the abducent nerve, eighth one is known as the facial nerve, which again have two parts, a medial motor part and a lateral sensory part, and the eighth cranial nerve, which is known as the vestibulocochlear nerve. Then the other three cranial nerves arises from the post-olivary sulcus. This is known as these were 6, 7, 8, these are 9, 10 and 11. Ninth one is the glossopharyngeal nerve, 10th one is the vagal nerve. Then 11th nerve have two parts. 11th nerve, as the name indicates, it is known as the spinal accessory nerve. So it have a cranial component and a spinal root. This one is the cranial root of the spinal accessory nerve, and this one is the cranial root of the spinal accessory nerve. The cranial root arises from the pre-olivary sulcus, and the cranial root arises from the post-olivary sulcus, and the spinal root arises from the pre-olivary sulcus. And the 12th cranial nerve arises from the pre-olivary sulcus above from the spinal root of the 12th nerve, and the 11th nerve, and the 12th nerve is known as the hypoglossal nerve. So these were the nerves, the cranial nerves, and just one nerve which actually pierces the nasal cavity through the cribriform plate and is known as the olfactory nerve, which is the cranial nerve number 1.